We honor the ground we walk upon and acknowledge this land as the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Raposo, Cheyenne, and Native nations and peoples. We recognize and honor the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and vow to reconcile the deep wounds that still shape our world today. Announcements. So mostly it's our regular stuff: social sisterhood, union groups, meditation, quiet practice, senior connect. Check for the back of your order of service for local times and listings. You know the change of date for the women's group. We are meeting on Monday, the 9th of December instead of Tuesday. And Tuesday is our annual holiday healing service, which is a contemplative service and sets a different tone than all the Christmas hubbub. This month, we will start collecting donations under the soon-to-be-present holiday giving tree. And this year, donations will go to homeless youth that are served by the school district in association with the Thompson Education Foundation. There are copies of the list at the back, maybe you've all received one, and in the December newsletter for those of you who aren't seeing it. One quick news item. I don't know if you saw, but Loveland is once again the leading recycling community along the front. So this number is not great though. I mean, we're the best, and it's 58% of our waste stream goes into recycling and composting. So we need to get that number up. Next Sunday, 10 a.m., regular time and place, stuff. Reverend Dana Lightsey and Worship Associate Debbie Gentry will explore the important questions about all the stuff in our lives, including not just material things, but worries, judgments, endless to-do lists. Join us. Join us for coffee hour after service today. Thank everyone, and thank all the people who are involved in putting this together today, and please silence your cell phones.
Do you take care of yourself? I've tried soaking in bubble baths and putting in early mornings at the gym and many late night Reese's, but it's taken a while to discover that the best way of taking care of myself is just to be present with myself. All of myself, but especially the little me that I grew out of. The little me I thought I'd left behind back in the rolling hills of Indiana. Being with that little Claire whose voice squeaks, whose clothes were too big, whose dreams were intertwined with his grandparents is an act of care. Thich Nhat Hanh writes, in part, to take care of ourselves, we must go back to take good care of the child inside us. Today, Kathy, Mim, Ryan, and I invite you to be with your inner child through healing wounds and delightful joys.
I grew up surrounded by names of places unpronounceable to many, but familiar to me. We made up our own meaning. Sheboygan, she had another day's voice. Hammoor, I can know my walk. I can't do anything. Silly thing. It wasn't clear to me that I lived on Native American lands. I thought they all lived that way. What would I say to myself from my perspective now? Ask questions. Ask more questions. Nearby were Green Bay and Two Rivers, totally understandable names. Curiosity would have informed me that Kiwani, just up the road, is a species of locally occurring duck, and that Kenosha is an Ojibwe word for the fish known as the northern pike, living in Lake Michigan. Even that Michigan is an Ottawa word meaning water. I come from a place of spirit. That's the origin of Manitoba. These place names were familiar, not foreign, but I never found out anything about the people who preceded me and who named these lands. Be more curious, I'd say. Lawrence and Jane and Pete. I would tell myself to be more understanding and tolerant. those names? I can't remember. I hope not. Jane rode my bus. She always smelled bad, dressed poorly, and never appropriately in the wicked Wisconsin winters. Developmentally disabled, but we used a more terrible word as we whispered about this lonely girl daily sitting by herself and keeping to herself at school. Keith got called queer, our word for a boy that was just too effeminate to fit in. I would have a long conversation with my younger self. First, to seek understanding. Who could I find to tell me about these differences and demystify these conditions for a child? No one ever talked about this stuff, so we only seemed to be able to loudly note the differences. We had far more in common. Lawrence was a mathematician, and I could have used his help. Keith, a singer. Who knows what Jane was capable of? He's more kind. What would I tell my younger self? I wouldn't have to say have more fun, because I had a great outdoorsy, quite privileged childhood. I would tell myself that the world is a better place for all the differences. Celebrate, understand, and for gosh sakes, just hang out with some folks you might learn some important things from. The world is a better place when we better understand our history and honor those we know little of. We light this chalice with hope for the future. May it be so. Please join me in saying our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is called. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
I invite you to share the spirit of love and care by reaching out with a hug, a handshake, a pinky high five, say hello to everyone. kids who want to come to the front, you can see better up here. Maybe you already know this one. Willems is a classic. It's really good to sit in this front too. You can see so well. This book is called Leonardo, the Terrible Monster. Leonardo was a terrible monster. He couldn't scare anyone. He's trying very hard. He didn't have 1,642 teeth like Tony. Of course, Tony was so many teeth. He wasn't big like Eleanor. You can only see Eleanor's legs in this picture. She was so tall. And he wasn't just plain weird like Hector. There's Hector sitting in the corner. Leonardo tried very hard to be scary. He's making all sorts of scary faces. Can you make some of these scary faces? Can we see them? 3, 2, 1, go! These are so good. Okay, can you turn and show them? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go! He tried very hard, but he just wasn't. One day, Leonardo had an idea. He would find the most scaredy-cat kid in the whole world and scare the tuna salad out of him. He was very excited about this. Leonardo researched until he found the perfect candidate. Sam. Sam! Leonardo snuck up on the poor, unsuspecting boy. And the monster gave it all he had. And there he is trying. He's jumping, he's roaring, he's growling, he's and there's Sam just staring at him. Until the little boy cried. Yes! cheered Leonardo. I did it! I finally scared the tuna salad out of someone. No, you didn't, snapped Sam. Oh, yeah, replied Leonardo. Then why are you crying? My mean big brother stole my action figure right out of my hands while I was still playing with it. Then he broke it on purpose, and it was my favorite toy, and I tried to fix it, but I couldn't, so I got mad and kicked the table, and I stubbed my toe on the same foot that I hurt last month when I accidentally slipped in the bathtub after I got soap in my eyes trying to wash out the bird poop that my brother's talking to pooped in my head, and I haven't had any friends, and my tummy hurts. That's why, said Sam, as he wiped away one tear. Then, Leonardo made a very big decision. Instead of being a terrible monster, he would be a wonderful friend. And there he is, hugging Sam, and he says, "It's okay." There they are, walking away, holding hands together. But that didn't mean that he couldn't try to scare his friend every now and then. There he is, trying to scare Sam. Can you try to scare them one more time with the biggest, wildest, weirdest faces? You're going to scare them. 3, 2, 1, go! Great job. I'm going to invite you to stand up, and you're going to head right on the back to Guaraldi today. I'll invite us to make a tunnel and sing this out.
Each week you support the work of this congregation, and in all the ways we live our values in this world through your generosity. You folks have been incredibly generous with the tiki raisers, and that's who we continue to financially support through the months of November and December. The physical donations are stopping today. I think it's the last day we're collecting those, but we're continuing to support them financially through the month of December. Tiki Raisers' mission: we establish diverse coalitions of partners to alleviate poverty in Native communities empower youth, create opportunities for reconciliation, and honor Indigenous wisdom. This season, as part of Indigenous Heritage Month, we are supporting them, as I said, with the gift and food drive, which ends today. And we thank you for your generosity. And hit it, Brian.
When I was a kid, my parents thought I should play sports. There was soccer, where I ran and sweat and stumbled and mostly didn't talk to anyone. Wrestling lasted a few semesters. Tiny me was knocked out before I entered the ring. Bowling, which was nice because it's a solitary sport. I can still smell the smoking section of the alley right next to where the kids play. Swimming, mostly trying not to drown. Basketball, which I only agreed to because otherwise I couldn't be in chess club. Tennis on the weekends, because maybe the other sports balls just weren't the right ones. Running, which made me want to puke. Baseball felt mostly like running, because it's a long way to the outfield. Looking back, I realized I was terrible at these sports because they just weren't who I was. And there were many joys in my childhood too, but like Leonardo, when I was terrible at things, it hurt. So today, I'm inviting us to start thinking about our younger selves through some of the sorrows we might have suffered. Rumi writes, "Sorrow prepares you for joy. It violently sweeps everything out of your house, so that new joy can find space to enter. It shakes the yellow leaves from the bough of your heart, so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place. It pulls up the rotten roots, so that new roots beneath can have room to grow. Whatever sorrow shakes from your heart, far better things will take their place." When you look back at the younger self who might need a little extra love, who do you see? I see a tiny, tow-headed, soft, frequently ill, squeaky, zealously religious musical theater nerd, pulled regularly from my classes to do advanced work in grade school and middle school, someone who was spectacularly awkward. I just couldn't find a way to connect with more than 2 friends. Maybe it was because I was queer before knowing what it was, or maybe I was uncomfortable in my body because I was terrible at sports. Maybe I had health issues that got in the way because they came from having the tuna salad scared out of me by the world. It could have been how terrified I was to die and be swept into hell at literally any moment. Or maybe it was because I grew up without any media or culture, so I didn't have any way to connect with my peers. Perhaps I just needed someone to love me the way that I want to love myself today. Whatever it was, no matter how hard I worked to compost those experiences, when I look back over those years, I often get uncomfortable. I feel embarrassed. I want to forget those moments that make me cringe. I want to move past the pain that little Claire was dealing with. Those are feelings I don't want to hold on to. It's a life I want to let go of, but it won't let go of me. It held me back from growing. And if I'm not growing, then I'm stuck. If I'm not growing, I'm not taking care of myself. The spiritual lesson I learned over and over again is that dealing with discomfort is the best way to grow. It's also true in neuroscience. The more we persevere in a challenge, the bigger the dopamine reward is in our brains. That's why we feel so good after finishing something we've worked really hard to do. It's not because it's done, it's because of the effort that went into the journey before. That's an easy lesson from the outside, but in here is another story. Seeing baby Clare isn't the hard part, it's meeting him where he's hurting. Holding him and opening up Clare for growth. That's the work of being present in here. I want to invite us all to take a moment in here, a moment to take care of ourselves. At the start of the service, I read a quote about inner children by the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. The full quote is, "To take good care of ourselves, we must go back and take care of the wounded child inside us." We all have a wounded younger self. It could be because of a traumatic experience or just an unresolved moment. Whatever it is, whoever you bring to this space, you're welcome. I want to invite us to take care of ourselves this morning, to move toward those scared, lonely little people, and to find ways of telling them how loved they are, how deeply they are connected to our souls. I'm going to invite us into a place of meditation. However that feels good for your body, if it feels right to close your eyes, I invite you to do that. Or if it just feels right to let them look down, that's good too. Let's start by taking a big breath in. And letting it go. And another big breath in. And let it go. And one more, because it feels so good, breathing all the way down to your toes. Take that big breath in. And let it go. And in your mind's eye, I just invite you to picture the younger self you want to give some extra love to today. You're not here to fix anything, you're not here to change anything. You're just here to be present. And once you can see that little version of you, just take a moment to look into their eyes from a few feet away. I'm standing with eyes to hear you, to hold you, I'm standing with eyes, I'm standing with eyes to hear you, to hold you, I'm standing with When you're ready, in your mind's eye, I invite you to just take a step toward that younger you. Take a step closer to who you were in that moment. And allow your heart to just be full of love and kindness. Allow your heart to be full with who invite you to stretch your arms out in front of you and bring them to wrap yourself in a hug. And as you do, imagine wrapping that younger you in a big hug. Again, offering them a heart full of loving kindness, offering them the gift of who you are today. I am sending you light to heal, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. Knowing that you can come back to this place whenever you need it, knowing that that little person will always be there ready for you. Give them one more squeeze and take a big breath in and let it go. And let your arms go and let yourself arrive back here. The person you are right now is the person you would have felt safe with when you were young. I've heard this pop psychology phrase a lot, but I think that when we do the inner work of caring for our younger selves, of sending them light and love, we are the people who make our younger selves feel safe. I've been working on this for many years in conscious and unconscious ways. When I lived in New York City, I worked as the head of the drama program at Blue School. Blue School was founded by the infamous Blue Man Group. If you don't know, they're a performance art group who paint themselves blue and then do outrageous things. They have an international following. When the time came for their kids to go to school, they wanted to create a place they wished that they could have gone as children. So when I suggested putting on a show with the kids, they said, anything goes. And we had the money to do it. We created the wildest, wackiest, most kid-centered theater I've ever seen. One show, which you see in the slides, was called Clowns in Space. We had a lighting designer who worked on SNL, a costume designer who worked at the Met, a percussionist who was on The Lion King at Broadway. I told the kids we could create anything. The show started with a scene at the dawn of time. The kids as cave people, running, crawling, grunting, jumping. One kid at the bottom right corner of the stage took out a cooked rotisserie chicken and started tearing it apart, eating voraciously. Everyone else joined in, but at that moment a meteor came, and the next thing they knew, they were in space, searching for the high that only rotisserie chicken can bring. We created this show together. All the scenes came from their imaginations. No matter how weird or nerdy or lonely these kids were outside of our time together, when we entered the rehearsal room, we were all on the same team, playing a game we were actually passionate about. I worked to create a space that was safe for them to explore and be themselves. But in caring for them and in creating that space, in being present, I was caring for my younger self, healing my wounds, and nurturing a sense of self that came from being an outsider. I wasn't alone. In writing a program note for the clown shows, I wrote, the idea of clowning gives the ensemble the freedom to imagine the selves as they dream of, both in daydreams and in nightmares, on stage for you tonight. The scenes they feature are short bursts of energy, contained moments of exploration that we wove together to create a score of delight and sadness and a lot of strangeness. It's all them. It's all the clowns. It's all the kids. We just wrap them up in a glittery bow. I was looking for a space to hold my daydreams and nightmares when I was a kid. I just had to create it 20 years later. I wonder what space you needed as a child that you've spent a lifetime to create. How are you nurturing your younger self through sorrow that shakes yellow leaves from the bough of your heart so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place? How are you pulling up the rotten roots so new roots hidden beneath have room to grow? How are you showing up to bring safety to the part of you that's longing for it? Maybe you'll find it through a project, or a memory book, or playing with children, or even playing sports. Or maybe it'll come when you find some time and space to be still, to be present with yourself. Maybe it'll come in the small whisper of kindness you can share with your younger self, because it's never too late to take care of them. I know how powerful that can be. So this week, I hope you might find a place to just be still, to wrap your arms around the one that's deep inside, to take care of your little self, to send them light, to heal you, to hold you. May it be so. Earlier, sorrow has prepared us for joy. I'm going to invite us in a moment to share a childhood joy, something that we don't know about you, something that people would be surprised to learn, a childhood joy. And in witnessing each other, we're receiving that joy. After we hear each person, we're going to give them a woohoo! It's got to be big, it's got to be wild, it's got to be weird. Mim's going to start us off.
She gets the mic. All right, my joy was my grapefruit. It was my birthday, and I thought everyone had forgotten. But my father said, I'm going to go to the store and buy some food for you. So I get some grapefruit.
1 second, Mim.
And it came up our front steps, which were louder than me. And he was bringing a bicycle. It was my very, very first bicycle. And I named it Grapefruit.
Let's give Mim 3, 2, 1. The mic is open. I'm going to put it right here.
Never one to keep quiet. When I was a child, I wanted a dog more than anything in the world. And every day my father would come home from work and I'd say, Daddy, did you bring me a dog? And he'd say, I don't know, look in my pockets. And I would look in every pocket, his jacket pocket, no, you didn't bring me a dog. And one day I was in the kitchen and we had a glass top on our kitchen door. And I looked up and my dad was standing there holding the paws of a dog with the legs around his neck. And I named her Snowshoe. She had white feet. I loved that dog till the day she died, and that was my saddest day of my life. So,
3, 2, 1. Woohoo! Who's up?
I'm Leonard. I have two joys. One was my great-grandfather, Leonard, and when I was about 10 years old, we'd go visit, and he'd take me down to the river to fish, and he'd let me drive his 53 Studebaker. But we'd catch helgermites and catch a few fish, and then we'd go back to their house, and my great-grandmother would fix me new potatoes and cream peas. Oh, they were delicious.
3, 2, 1. Woohoo!
I was a very quiet kid, but I loved to be outside. So one of my biggest joys, we lived in Florida, was sneaking out first thing in the morning and stealing the canoe before anybody else could get it, and quietly going out to find the alligator that we called Gorgeous George and see how close I could get to him and talk to him. I never tried to touch him, but that was my biggest joy as a child, being outdoors and enjoying all of that, and still my biggest joy.
3, 2, 1. Woo!
Probably the day that I got my first point shoes, because I was a ballerina as a kid, and like my big thing when I was like really, really little is I'd watch the bigger girls dance. They would come into like the littles' room and they'd watch us, and we'd watch them perform like a competition pieces, and it was really, really fun the first day I got my point shoes.
3, 2, 1. Woohoo! I feel like there's somebody right by me.
When I was a little kid, I always got sick on holidays. So when I was off school, I spent the whole time, just being sick. So my daddy, this one time, of course, I was number 7, so that felt like nobody really cared about me, except my daddy. When I was sick, he would always bring me a chocolate milkshake. And this one year on Thanksgiving, we were living up in Northern California. Yeah, up in Northern California, somewhere. And it was like late at night, and I had been, puking all day and everything. Thanksgiving, smelling that turkey. So my daddy went to get me a milkshake. And we lived on one side of Clear Lake. And he left, and he drove, and he drove, and he drove. And he stopped everywhere he could see that was open, bars, liquor store, it didn't matter. He's looking for a chocolate milkshake for his baby. And he came all the way around, and right before he got back, he found a bar that made a chocolate milkshake for me. And he brought it home. And I was like, oh, my daddy loves me.
3, 2, woo!
I grew up in the Netherlands, and I had a twin brother, Tom. And Tom was about 1 foot taller than me, and I was a scrawny little kid. A lot of bullies in school, and when there was a bully, I say, Tom, that guy, and Tom went after him. That was so funny. When I didn't feel right, or when I was lonely, or whatever, he would be there. He was my best friend, and I love him. He passed away 6 years ago, but I still think of him with so much, good memories.
3, 2, 1. Woo!
Janet, thank you. I couldn't remember anything until you said Clear Lake, and then I was thinking, oh my gosh, fishing with my brother and my dad at Clear Lake. My dad would say he would remember the time as the fish were jumping out into my hands. They couldn't catch anything, but I was just pulling them out of the lake, one after the next. So thank you.
3, 2, 1. Woo!
A lot of you know that I love music, but as a kid, I also took dance lessons, and my favorite dancing was tap dancing because of the rhythms. And I learned this one routine. I can still do it from like second grade, but the thing was I was the shortest one, so everybody at the end was going off like this, but since I was last off the stage, I got to go. And I got it, and so it was like this joyful moment of I got to do that.
3, 2, 1. Woo! Yes.
Hi, one of my fondest memories as a child is climbing trees with my younger sister, Chris. And I'm still a tree hugger. They were sanctuary for us in a lot of ways. And we had 2 identical pine trees in the front yard. And my sister Chris and I would climb up into the very, very tippy tops of those trees. And it was just so magical. And this month, she is celebrating her 70th birthday, and I get to go be there in Michigan and celebrate with her. So that brings me great joy.
3, 2, 1. Woohoo! Oh, okay, great.
Love to blow up things. And so 4th of July was his favorite holiday, and he'd get all these fireworks to, we put them in tin cans and they go, whatever. And so we lived out in the country, and the fireworks were over Lake Michigan, and they never wanted to drive all the way into town to see the fireworks. So one year my dad said, let's get on top of the roof. And so, my mother was like, no, 5 children on the roof, no, they'll all be dead. But my dad was like, we can do this. So he got the ladder up, we stood on top of the roof. We could barely see them, but we were on the roof.
3, 2, 1.
Woo!
I was born in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, sort of in the Harlem area, and it was sort of a rough neighborhood at the time. And I must have been around 4 years old. And my dad and I going to go into the apartment. He shut the door behind me. So I said, let me in, let me in. And then he started saying, oh, no, no, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police. And I was getting a little scared and waited a while. I knocked again. He said, who is it? Who is it? I said, it's me. I said, I'll call the police. I'll call the police. And then I waited a long time. He was delighted in this story. He would tell it over and over again. And then he said, who is it? I said, the police. And he would tell that story so many times.
Thank you. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Other ones? Or any on Zoom or upstairs? Three, two, one. Woo! So for bicycles and chocolate milkshakes and twirls and these and fish that are just too many to be able to hold, for the police showing up unexpectedly at our door, for our brothers and our fathers and our mothers and all those who are with us in that joy, celebrating them and celebrating the us that we've become. Let's give one more. Woo! So we thought today it'd be fun to change up our closing hymn. We usually spend a lot of time singing, but there's lots of other ways we can use our bodies to be in space. And we're going to invite you today instead to have a very short dance. Okay? I think you can do this. You're going to be able to handle it. Kathy and I are going to demonstrate a couple moves. we celebrate diversity, but this is a largely white congregation, so we thought dance moves would be helpful, okay? So, if you just want to stay sitting, you can always just give a little hands. Let's just try it together. Try it with me. Just a little hands. That's it. This is great. You can take them back and forth. You can take them up and down. You can go this way. Just don't hit anybody. All right, great. If you feel like standing, you could, people are already leaving. If you feel like standing, you can just give just a little shimmy, just a little back and forth like this, a little back and forth like this. This is great too. And if you feel like you want to stand but you don't want anything to do with anybody else, you could just kind of give yourself a little heartbeat and just enjoy everything else that's going on. We're going to do it for about a minute. I'm going to invite you to pull somebody into a dance with you you may have not talked to or interacted with yet this morning. Ryan's going to play us in. I'll invite us to stand in body or spirit when you feel ready.
Those we danced into our minds today. We thank you, bless you, and we shout, hooray! I'm sending you light to hold you, to heal you.
I'm sending you light to hold you in love.